Welcome to Quick Shots, a short format traditional archery podcast, where we introduce you to some of the world's most influential traditional archers, and occasionally, some random dudes. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Quick Shots. I'm your host, Mick Chambers. I'm here with Ray Fletcher from Riverbend Longbows. Hey Ray, how you doing?
Great.
Good, man. Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. This is the first time we're meeting. This first kind we're actually talking, so we're going to be able to get to know you a little bit more today. And we want to start that off by really understanding. Can you give us your background on how you got into traditional archery?
Well, started very young age. I grew up in New Mexico, so I was already surrounded by kind of a native culture, the hunter, aspect of it. So always been leaning towards the archery part of that. Making stick bows. My dad helped me make strings for him, whatnot, and progressed on, and then through my teenage years, finally acquired like a compound. Everybody had a compound. So I went through that phase, but once I got older, I did make a kill with my compound, and that was quite boring actually. So, and I was grouping quarter size groups at 50 yards. There was just no fun for it and fun in it for me. So I've been shooting traditional now for almost 30 years.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's quite the heritage. And have you always been longbow guy, or do you shoot recurve at all? Or
I did have a recurve for a while. It was just like a PSE something. I can't even remember what it was. And then I started shooting longbows. I shot a few at a traditional shoot, and I thought this is the way to go.
Yeah.
And then just one thing led to another, and now all I shoot is longbows.
Of course, well, because you make longbows. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how did you get into making bows then?
My cousin was a bowyer at the time, and I'll leave his name unmentioned because I don't think he does it anymore and doesn't want to, but he was very, very good. But I was making the laminations for him because I'm a carpenter, and I used to do custom milling and trim work, so I had the machinery to do so. And so I was making the laminations for him, which are the laminations of wood that go between the two compressed pieces of the fiberglass.
Right.
And I was broke raising a family, but I wanted a bow, so I'm like, well, why don't I just make my own? So there you go. And that's how it kind of got started. Made a bow and started making bows for people, friends, family, and got a little better at it, and there we go.
So did you was it frustrating at the very beginning? I mean, I don't know anything about making bows. I've seen a little bit of video online and stuff like that, but it seems to me like, anyone that I know that's tried it, even carpenter. I have a friend who's a carpenter here in Kansas, and he tried to make forms and stuff like that. But, he had so much failure and he spent so much money trying to make all these bows. He said, I just buy one. So like, that's why we depend on people like you to be experts at it, right?
Well, what happens is I'm a finished carpenter, and I do very meticulous, articulate things anyway. So I kind of nailed it right off the get-go because there's no room for error when you're building a staircase. So I just brought that right into the bow process. You figure it out, formulate it, get it right the first time. And so it just all flowed together through my finished carpentry skills and background. I think really helps, a lot of people do everybody can do it. It's just a matter of background knowledge. Definitely helps. That's for sure.
Yeah. Skill working with wood too. I mean, that's super.
Yeah. You learn how wood reacts to whatever you're applicating it to, or what, and I've already had experience with laminating objects, like doing tangent staircase returns and stuff, the big ornate.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
But the concept of that and making wood do what you want it to do, reading the wood, the grain, everything, which that's not as complicated as in longbows whatsoever. You know,
Okay. Really? So making a
but I
staircase
think
is more complicated than making a bow for you.
oh yeah,
Wow.
I never want to do it again. That's the thing I did, done, it's done.
That's interesting. That's super interesting because I would thought, again, just from people I know that like, yeah, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try and make a bow, and then then I'll have the form, and then I'll just make bows going forward. They have a hard time. But you're right. I mean, with your understanding of wood and how wood works, I think that you had a leg up there. So how many bows do you make a year?
Uh, well, of course, it's really picked up this year. I really decided to really go forward with this more and really plug in myself late nights on Instagram, YouTube, just really trying to crank it. And so this year I'm 22 since January.
Wow. So you're on a pace to do like about 50 or something like that, maybe
I hope so.
40,
I hope
45.
to do more.
That's amazing. That's pretty amazing though. That is pretty amazing. And the style of bow that you're making, what kind of bow are you making?
It's look out. It's I'm kind of going for, and I'm more of the vintage style look. Like you would have picked this up off the shelf in 1945. You know,
Yeah.
it's slight deflex, reflex with heavy reflex, and with this form, which is very accidental but formulated, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Getting a lot more speed with less poundage.
Yeah,
And
that's what everyone's after.
I really need to get it more. I've had it chronoed a few times through guys who have ordered bows from me, and they're spitting them right down there. Had one guy, he was shooting when the gold tips, they used to be the 35-55 arrows with a 125 grain tip, and he had a 45 pound at 28, but of course he was pulling a little bit further. I think he was 182 feet per second.
Oh, for a longbow,
yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's getting there.
And they don't stack up at all, really. So they're very. I've had no negative comebacks or bad reviews so far. So.
Yeah, and you're telling me that's interesting to me because you were telling me previous to this conversation, you were saying that they're 60-inch bows. So that's kind of that sweet spot. You can kind of be in a blind, you can be up on a tree stand. That's really a good hunting bow.
Yeah, and with the reflex tips, I've had this conversation with other people too. It's borderline recurve, but not really. You don't get the pinch point in the string as you do a regular style D style longbow.
Yeah.
And that really helps. Yeah, I don't know. I got lucky and I'm sticking with it. And that's the only bow I'm going to make. I've had a lot of people want this style. And I'm like, I don't do that. This is my bow. That if you want it, that's what you get.
Yeah, when you stick to one thing, you do it really well, then people can come to you and say, hey, this guy only does this. He's not a jack of all trades. He's just this one, he specializes in this one thing. And it's kind of more trust, it makes you very trustworthy because, then you get to see that same bow with like maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100, 200 people that already have it and already testing it. You can get good reviews back, right? Like you said, you got great reviews back. So I don't know that I've seen any testimonials on your Instagram, but I'd love to see that because that would be great advertising and great marketing for you, right? Because it's
John Heffernan. He has a YouTube channel called Wingman 115, and he does a lot of reviews. And he reviewed my bow. I've got several other little small YouTubers that have reviewed my bows for me. And then I've got just, I get a lot of personal feedback messages from customers, which is great,
Yeah, Wingman's a great dude. I mean, he's got great content too. And I'll have to check that out. I don't know that I saw that video. I watched most of his stuff, but I'm sure I have. But that's interesting. That's interesting because yeah, the more you get into people's hands, the more, again, it's the same bow, right? It's the same
Yeah.
bow, which is really cool. Now, can you make it so if I'm not crazy, but I've got a 45-pound longbow, I'm edging them back to 40 now as I get older. And you're already
Yeah.
saying you got lots of speed. I mean, so can you make it at 40 at 29 or something like that if I were to ask you for? So no problem customizing it that way.
Nope, I can do left or right and whatever poundage preference you want. If you want to do up to 60, I won't do anything more than 60 because I think that's just ludicrous. There's no need for that.
Yeah, no, that's
A 55-pound bow would take an elephant down.
really,
So
yeah,
I think so.
it's true. But some of the guys from England, I had a guy on here from England, he shoots 120-pound bows. Those English war bows or long bows. And it's a thing, right? It's not so much it's a thing. It's like, hey, I want to connect myself back to old English days, and so yeah, that's what they used to shoot, and they used to shoot long distances, and it's more not for precision shooting, I don't think. At least that's what they told me.
Novelty shooting.
Yeah, no, well, they have big groups of people that do it. And then yeah, so that's cool. So just the 60, but what's the lowest poundage you can go?
I've done 30.
Okay. All right. So beginner and advanced. That's really good. Now, do you
30.
recommend, sorry, go ahead.
30 is plenty for us, 7 years old up,
Yeah, I was 8, I think 9 or 10, maybe 9 or 10. I had a 35-pound bow that was very similar. I think it was 58 inches that my dad gave me when I was a kid. It was old Ben Pearson. I had that thing strung the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
It had no shelf on it. Like it had no shelf on them, right? and so it was strung the wrong way. Eventually yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was a good experience though for me.
Yeah.
How's the hand shock on that thing? You're the boy, you're gonna say 0, right?
I mean, every bow has a little bit, I guess, a tinge, but what I've heard from everybody else, I don't even notice it, anything like that.
Right.
And everybody's no hand shock. I've had nobody say any hand shock whatsoever. So
yeah, that's good. I think that's I think that turns people off, the more,
I've had some that just rattle your teeth, but
yeah.
Or shot some. I haven't owned them, but I've shot some that are just horrible. But no, these are very smooth, very, very user friendly, I guess you could say.
So if someone wants to purchase a bow from you, 45 pounds, 28, where do they go to contact you to do that?
Instagram is my platform I'm using for that. They can just private message me and we'll make it work. See, we're US, Canada only right now. I'm not doing any international for now until I can find a different courier that's dependable.
Yeah, I'm Canadian. I don't even know if I trust Canada Post. Like literally.
Actually, I mailed 2 items the same day. One to Chris Leclerc up in Canada and one to Maine. And the one got to Canada before the one got to Maine.
Is that right? Because I get my for my Canadian listeners, I get my parents to mail me butter tarts. They're these really delicious.
Right.
Do you know what butter tart is?
I know what they are. I've never had one. But
So they're so good. They're so good. So, and it takes like a month to get here. It's like it takes like a month from like the border to get to the US border, and then it takes like 20 days, and then it takes like 3 days to get from in the US, so don't make fun of our US Postal Service. We had an awesome US Postal Service. No one should make fun of those guys. They work super hard, especially during COVID. Great people.
Customs, not so much. I've got a bow floating around in Denmark and one floating around in Sweden somewhere right now. So
That's the worst, because you know what?
it's
New bow
terrible.
day, you make people smile. I'm gonna tell you right now. I know you probably know this, but new bow day is probably the best day. And it's like it gets my heart racing the same way that shooting a buck does,
Yeah.
or a deer like gets other people's heart racing. When I get that new bow, it's like, and then when it's late or it doesn't come, it's frustrating. It is super
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Hey, so getting back to you as an archer. So are you a tournament archer? Are you a 3D archer, or just for fun, or
Just fun and hunting. That's all I, goof around in the backyard. I might go stumping every once in a while, but mostly small game, large game, bow fishing for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Talk to us about bow fishing a little bit. I mean, you've got some videos up on your channel right now, bow fishing.
Mhm.
So that's interesting to me for the longbow.
Yeah, it's great. And as far as talked about instinctive shooting, that's one way to get really good at instinctive shooting, because you have no time for walking the string or crawling the string or gap shooting. It's grip it and rip it, because you only have that one moment most of the time of that fish coming up. A lot of times we have time to prepare ourselves and kind of get your depth perception, or but you're still reading the light refraction of the water. You have to kind of know where to place the arrow, because it might look like it's here, but the fish is actually here or here, depending
Yeah,
on the angle of the water.
right,
So most of the time you're going to aim low, because the fish is actually closer due to the light refraction than,
right.
so the arrow comes right into it. So there's a lot, it takes a lot of shooting, a lot of experience, but as far as instinctive shooting goes, that's a good way to learn.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, this is the hot topic, and it's always the hot topic, right? In
Oh yeah.
in archery, if you, I don't even go on message boards anymore. Like, remember back in the day, there was all those message boards, and you go on there and they talk about instinctive and the people aiming and gapping, and there's a bunch of stuff, and there's no such thing as instinctive and that sort of thing. And sure, mentally, maybe you're aiming somewhere along the line, but it really is a split second decision. You have to go by feel a lot of times. So you're an instinctive shooter, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're split finger instinctive shooter, just traditional as you possibly can be.
Yep.
Yeah,
Stick.
so that's interesting to me too. I mean, that we keep having this conversation, it keeps coming back, is about this instinctive thing. So I think we need to put this to bed and just say, if people want to say it's instinctive, it's instinctive. That's it. We don't need to. We are such a nice, small, friendly community. We got to stay friendly. Everyone that's single string shooters, in my opinion, anyway. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it don't matter if you're Olympic recurve and you're using a sight, or you're using a longbow or a primitive bow, with wood arrows and stone tips. Let people shoot the way they want to shoot, and be happy with it. And there's some guys that are lights out. I mean, you're shooting what, 40 yards and taking fish out, so that ain't easy. That ain't
No.
easy with the reflection on the water. That's interesting. Go back to that just a little bit. So I didn't know that, because I don't fish. Like, I don't bow fish. What do you call it? Bow fishing?
Both. Yeah.
I've never done it before.
It's just uh in science class they teach you about light refraction.
Yep.
And so as the light comes down into the water, it refracts, through the water. So the images appear differently than what they actually are.
Yeah.
And so uh, usually you're at an angle, unless you're in a boat shooting straight down at them, which a lot of guys do. They're like a 1 yard shot,
Yeah.
whack. I
Yeah.
mean, you're not going to miss. And if you do, you might as well just drive the boat.
Hey,
Anyway.
but hey, let me stop you there for a second. 1 yard shot or 2 yard shot, whatever.
Mhm.
You got to do that instinctively.
Yeah.
How the hell
Oh,
can you aim at a 1 yard shot? It's
yeah.
like,
Even if they don't even know they're doing it, they're doing it.
they're doing it. Yeah, yeah. Keep going. Sorry, I wanted to mention that.
And so, we do a lot of bank shooting, walk shooting. We just travel around our creek systems here and rivers, and we're usually shooting off the bank. So the more of an angle you are, the more light refraction causes. So the fish is actually way closer than you think it is, what it appears to be when you're looking down. So you learn to shoot low than where the fish is. So it looks like you're going to shoot right under it, but really you're going dead on.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then that's just more of experience, you know, of you just know where to shoot.
Yeah, it's compiling instinctive upon instinctive upon instinctive, right? It's like you're not gonna go, well, I gotta shoot 1 inch underneath that because
Yeah,
I'm 10 yards, I'm 20 yards, I'm you know,
yeah.
there's just a lot of instinctive. So hey,
And
go ahead.
you know, it still happens in fishing too. You kind of get the buck fever. I don't know how many fish my wife and I shoot that are 40 pounds, but we shoot these little gar that are only 1.5 inches wide at 20 yards, you know.
Yeah.
You kind of get flustered, you know, and it happens to the best of us.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm interested in this still. Let's stay on this topic for a second. What's your bow setup for fishing? How do you set that up?
It's the AMS bow fishing reel. It's a bottle retriever system. Give me 1 second and I'll just show everybody.
That would be cool, actually. So yeah, if anyone wants to go bow fishing, this would kind of and you have traditional gear, this sounds like the way to go. Let's get ready.
And there's other companies too that offer just as well equipment, but this is the
Okay.
AMS bottle retriever, and it
Yeah.
works on a clutch system like a wheel,
Yeah.
so you can reel your line back in.
Okay.
And this is old. I mean, this is so rigged up with my old. They come much nicer than this now.
Did you put screws into your riser there?
This one I did. This was one of my old bows, and I put some inserts in so I could screw it right on. But they do make, if you order one of these for your bow, they make the traditional mount.
Oh,
It's a
good.
bracket with the rubber straps, and then
Yeah.
that screws onto that unit, so you're not damaging your bow or having to tap into your riser. But
Yeah, we're not all
very
bowyers. We
efficient.
can't have like multiple bows, and I'm not drilling holes through my expensive
Yeah.
bows.
And then there's so many options on arrows. You know, this is the bow fishing arrow. So when it goes in, it hooks
Yeah,
back with barbs, and then to pull your arrow, you just loosen the tip, slide your barbs forward, and then pull the arrow out.
that's
Very
awesome.
simple, very effective, but it's very addictive.
So hey, bow fishing arrows. You say there's a bunch of variety. I'm genuinely curious, and you're the only one that's ever been on my show to talk about bow fishing. Just FYI, I I'm actually curious. So I don't actually see, I see that one type that you're showing right there. Now, are they rated in terms of 400s, 500s?
There's different. There's like you can get like carbon graphite arrows now that are lighter. These are just fiberglass rod, basically like an antenna. I mean,
Yeah.
they're rugged. But
So do you have to tune? Are you tuning your bow to that?
just mentally,
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, are they too?
it's just a fiberglass rod, and they're heavy. I don't even know how many. I should measure or see how heavy they are, but they're heavy. So yeah, I mean, once you bring your form up, you know, you keep your frame, but you just
Yeah,
do what you
yeah,
got to
yeah.
do at your hips, like you.
Yeah, like in a tree stand.
Right. Yep.
Um,
So there's a whole huge adjustment there. A guy just showed up yesterday with his bow, and I did some stuff for him, and we ended up shooting in the backyard while I've been bow fishing the whole time. And I picked up my old carbon arrow over here, and
it's
I
way
was
over the target.
way off. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a learning curve there.
That's interesting. How long you been bow fishing now? Did you say?
almost 30 years now. Yeah.
All right. Hey, that's sort of interesting. I mean, off season, that's nothing better. Are you shooting out of a bass boat or something like that, or do you have like a?
No, we've just I do have a canoe that I built a black platform for, and it
Okay.
has pontoons that you can stand up on and shoot off. And our river system used to flood almost every spring, and so all the bottom field, cornfield and stuff would be flooded. Well, all those fish just come up in those fields, and we used to just cruise around, and it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
But most of the time, we just run to the creek bridges. If they watch my YouTube videos, you'll see we're always just shooting off the bank, off the river banks, find a school of them somewhere and just,
Yeah, grip it and rip it. Yeah, I know. Grip it and rip it. Hey, are you watching Alone at all?
Not yet. I'm trying
Right.
to save it all so I can binge watch the whole series.
Okay, so for those people who don't know, Alone is a show on, I don't know, TBS. I don't know what's on, but anyway, it's really History Channel maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a really cool show, and they typically, so they drop you off in British Columbia somewhere, and then it's tough. But if you haven't watched it, watch it, because Clay Hayes is currently on that show right now. He's one of our traditional archery content creators, like Ray, myself, and a few others. But he's really doing the traditional archery community good. You would think that he would think about this. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but he doesn't fish with his bow, but he is going after big game, or he's going after game with his bow, and he has a bow out there. But that would have been good too if he could rig that up so they could fish that way.
I wouldn't put it past him before the season's over.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll surprise us. But anyway, shout out to Clay Hayes, man. Go get it. We're hoping that you win. And you're doing a really good job on the traditional archery in general.
If you go on Clay Hayes' YouTube channel, he just put up a bow fishing video. He shot a huge gar with his bow he used there.
Say that again. You were kind of cut off just a little bit.
People go on Clay Hayes' YouTube channel. He just put up a video a few weeks ago of him shooting a gar in Florida with that bow.
The one that he took on the show?
I believe it was the one. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
I'd have to ask him, but I think so. Yeah.
He's a good dude. And we're like fingers crossed that he won that thing, man. It's so it's so exciting for us being in the community. Hey, so one piece of advice: what if a new archer, someone calls you up and says, "Hey, Ray, I've never shot traditional before. Maybe I'm coming from compound. Maybe I've never shot a bow before in my life. I heard your bows are really good. I want you to send me one, but can you help me learn to aim or shoot? How do you shoot this stupid thing?" What's a good piece of advice that you would give a new archer?
If they have a target to shoot at,
yep,
like a bag target or whatever, take a trash can black bag, cover that thing up, and just shoot it with an arrow, and then try to hit that arrow with the next arrow until you find where you don't start out with a ring target. That'll throw you completely off.
Okay.
And just start trying to follow that arrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No distractions, just hit the bag, and then try to remember what you did to do that, and do it again and repeat the process. And if anything, get proper form right off the bat. There's so many tutorials. Jeff Kavanaugh has all those old YouTube tutorials on proper form, shooting form, anchor point, release, everything. Watch them, rewatch them. Mostly it's just consistency and learning your bow.
Yeah.
And I used to help with kids shooting archery. This is a whole other thing, but my sister and I started the NAST program in our school here.
Oh, nice.
Which is the National Archery in the Schools program.
Yep. Nice.
And so I was helping kids and the one thing I learned is their up and down is great. Usually they get that quick, but their left and right is horrible. So what we always did was cover the bag, hang a string over the bag, and you'll see other archers tell this in tutorials or whatnot. Don't worry about up and down, just hit the string. And
Yeah.
that'll bring your vision into where you need to be left and right, and then work on your up and down.
Ah, okay. That's good. That's
No,
good.
don't start out with the circle targets, just a plain bag, maybe a piece of scotch tape right in the middle. Hit that piece of scotch tape,
Right. So
and that'll
aims
help brain focus. Yeah, aim small,
miss small.
focus on that one little spot, and that's it. So,
Yeah.
like what's Brian Ferguson used to say about the center of a beach ball is the same size as the center of an aspirin.
That's right. He said, I can hit an aspirin because it's the center is the center is the center. It's
Exactly.
like, it doesn't get any bigger.
No, still the same.
Yeah. Yeah. He had a good show. He used to put on a good show all the time.
Yeah.
We know, you and I were talking, we know some good trick shot shooters. And, Kavanaugh started a lot of this, to be honest with you. Let's blame him, right? Let's blame him.
He's what they call him, the OG.
Yeah. That's all his kids said. He is OG. He is OG. He's a good dude. I know that he's currently got an article, and I know they shared it with you as well, that he's trying to get published, and it talks a lot about instinctive archery.
Yeah.
And be quite honest with you, there's really no better ambassador for instinctive archery than he is.
Right.
There may be a few others, but I mean, he's definitely one of the reasons I got back into archery. I took some time off, I got back into it, but then I went on YouTube and I was like, wow, this dude can shoot this good. That's an aspiration, right? That's something to look forward to. So I hate, every show I get on, I feel like I'm talking about Kavanaugh, but he really was one of the reasons that I got going. And he's the reason why you and I are talking, right? Because he said, you got to talk to this guy. He's pretty cool. So, it's been great having you on the show.
Yeah.
Do you got anyone else that you kind of, when you're thinking about archery and sort of, like, Kavanaugh's one of my mentors. Is there anyone that would stand out to you in terms of mentors or?
Oh, like we were talking about earlier, just a series of people over the years, like a lot of no names. Nobody will even know who they are. I used to be friends with a Boyer down in Kansas, and he's gone now. Nobody will ever know him, and he taught me a lot of things. But we used to shoot the traditional shoots, and Spanky Brooks.
Yeah, from Kansas.
We used to camp with him.
Yeah.
And he was actually able to teach my wife how to shoot, because I could never explain to my wife how I shoot. And she just was like, well, that doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
Well, Spanky was one to be able to break it down for her. And she was, we were always chasing her arrows in the woods, and after that, she never lost an arrow. It was always foam, no matter what. So,
yeah, I've had the pleasure of shooting with Spanky too. And he's just really good at picking out that one thing. It's like, hey, in general, here, fix this, and you're going to be so much better archer. He was saying I wasn't coming into alignment ever. I was collapsing every single time.
Right.
Now I still do that a little bit. A lot more than I like to, but I think about that time that Spanky told me, hey, come back into full alignment and you'll be better off. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yep. And there's just been a lot of different influential people over the years, and there's so many people on Instagram that are just amazing,
Yeah. Hey, tell us that story about your wife and Spanky. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, we used to camp with I'll let the people know, we used to have traditional shoots, and it was free camping all weekend. So there was all traditional archers. We had the footed shaft used to come down,
Yeah,
and a bunch of other people from all over the country. And so we'd all just camp and hang out, and we used to camp next to Spanky Brooks and his family. And my wife was asking him questions about, how do you get so good? She said, how many arrows do you shoot a day? He's like, oh, I shoot at least 100 arrows a day. And my wife says, I don't have that many arrows. So it was great.
It's so good, man. That's such a good story. That's such a good story. Hey, with that, hey, thanks very much for coming on the show and just being great guest. I really appreciate you, and thanks for doing such hard work. You know, being a boyer and keeping the tradition of you know, that alive as well too. So really appreciate that, and great chat on fishing. Now that's really cool. I think that that's something that, you know, you can do in the off season to really get better at archery. So anytime you
Yeah,
can do hunting.
you know, especially as I want to say in the Midwest area, we've been overtaken by the invasive species of the jumping silver carp, the big head Asians and stuff. So as an outdoorsman and a conservationist or anything that you are, you're doing everybody a favor by going out there and hunting those, because they're taken away from our natural habitat of our fish that are already native to here.
Yeah.
So as much as we can cut them down, we'll never get rid of them. They're here to stay forever. But it
Get rid
helps.
of them. Get
And
helps.
eat 'em.
Every little bit helps. Get out there and shoot. Anytime you're shooting, you're getting better. And so you can, you know, and it's just fun to shoot a bow, right? It's just fun to shoot a bow.
Exactly.
All right. Again, thanks, Ray, for joining us. Thanks everyone for sticking around. Really appreciate that. This is really good. I will be at ETAR this year, at least. Ray, you're not going to be there this year, unfortunately. You're off to New Mexico, but you know, check him out on Instagram. If you are interested in bows, hit him up, DM and get a bow. It's be awesome, you know, and just enjoy traditional archery the traditional way. If you're at ETAR and you want to get interviewed like this, or you know someone that wants to get interviewed, please leave me a DM or even comment on this video, and I'll be sure to meet up with you. It's going to be great there. Until we talk again, everyone, thanks very much and appreciate your time.